Welcome back. We're so excited to start this panel as we have four ladies who have played at different stages of the national team program, from U18 to the development team to the senior team, and represented Canada and Alberta on the Olympic stage. We've asked these ladies to share their stories from all points of the national team journey. To introduce them, we will start with the veterans and work our way down to the rookies. So I will turn it over to Kendall for the bios.
Awesome. Thanks, Taryn. Like all of the other people we've had this weekend, it's going to be a tough time to keep their bios short. These ladies have accomplished a lot. We will start with Carla MacLeod, born in Spruce Grove, currently resides in Calgary. She's played for Team Alberta multiple times, including in the 95 and 99 Canada Winter Games. She's played on the development team, which was at the time called the U22 national team, for 5 years, and served as a captain in her final season. Graduated from University of Wisconsin in 2006, where she captained the team her final 2 seasons. Came home and won several national championships with the Calgary Oval Extreme. Competed on Team Canada for 6 seasons, including 4 IIHF Women's World Championships and 2 Olympic Games, including 2 Olympic gold medals in 2006 and 2010 in Vancouver. One-time IIHF World Champion in 2007, 3-time silver medalist in 2005, 2008, and 2009. Following the Vancouver Olympics, retired and started coaching. You served as an assistant coach with the U18 Team Canada team. You've coached Team Japan, including in the 2014 Sochi Olympics. You've coached Team Alberta as an assistant coach and a head coach, with most recently with our 2019 Canada Games team, which we won a gold medal there. And you're currently in your 7th season coaching at the Edge. So welcome, Carla. Next, we'll move to Marlene Boissonnault. She's originally from New Brunswick and actually is joining us from New Brunswick today, but is currently living in Calgary the rest of the time. She went home for the holidays and is still there. She played for Hockey New Brunswick from 2009 to 2014. Played with Team Atlantic, the U18 team, in 2013. Played for in the Canada Winter Games in 2015 for Team New Brunswick. Went to prep school out east in Rothsay Netherwood School. She was a goaltender for Cornell from 2015 to 2019, and now is in Calgary training with the PWPHA program that's based out of Calgary. She was a goaltender for the Team Canada in the U18 and U22 programs, and currently in their development program as well right now. So welcome, boss. Next up, we have Danielle Serdachny, who's joining us from New York today. She's currently playing at Colgate. She's born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta. She represented Team Alberta on 2 occasions in 2017 at U18 Nationals, and then again recently with 2019 in the Canada Games. She was our captain for Team Alberta in 2019, which won the gold here in Red Deer. In addition to that year, she had a pretty big year. She won gold at the IIHF U18 World Championships. She's participated in Hockey Canada camps at the U18 level and development. And like I said, she's currently playing her post-secondary hockey at Colgate University in New York. Lastly, we have Sarah Wozniewicz, who everyone just likes to refer to as Wozzy. So that you might hear that a couple of times today. She's currently lives in Cochrane and started playing her minor hockey there before starting to play the U15 and U18 elite level hockey levels in Alberta. She's been a part of the Team Alberta U16 programs, the Alberta Challenge, and won a gold medal in the 2018 Alberta Winter Games up in Fort McMurray. She was selected to the 2019 Canada Games gold medal team, along with Carla and Danielle. We have a big Canada Games flavor today. And then was selected again in 2019 for the U18 Nationals. Following that, she was selected to U18 Team Canada as an underage player at 16 years old for the 2020 World Championships and won a silver medal with Team Canada there. She's currently finishing her grade 12 year and will be attending University of Wisconsin in the fall. So we have a couple of Badgers on this call as well. So welcome, ladies. Thanks for joining us, and let's get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Kendall. Yeah, let's get started. So first question I have will be for all of you. Each of you have competed for your provincial team programs. Can you describe a little bit what that was like and how it prepared you for your national team experience? And I'll throw it to Boss first on this one.
Yeah, for me, I played with the provincial team for a handful of years. I'd say preparing me for the national stage, it keeps you at a high standard. You really have to be, you got to be accurate with your goals, and you got to be really focused on what you want. You got to realize that, the game is a bigger thing than yourself. You're not with your local teams anymore. Overall, the provincial team, for me, it gave me not a bigger purpose, but it gave me a bigger stage to look upon and give me higher goals to then look for Team Atlantic and then the national team and university in the mix as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Danielle, I'll go over to you. Competing with the provincial team, how that prepared you for the national team.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously with Team Alberta, it's a bit of a process going through Alberta Winter Games, Alberta Challenge, U16 and U18. And obviously it's a long process, but it's definitely worth it. And getting to play with and against the best players at nationals and both Canada Winter Games was definitely huge. And I think also just having the support from Hockey Alberta for sure has been awesome and helped me really get to that next stage.
Perfect. Woz, to you on that one.
I just think trying out for Team Alberta, the whole process is just very similar to the Team Canada tryout process. So it sets you up perfectly. So when you get to the Team Canada tryout process, you know what you're in for and you're ready to go.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing that. And Carla, for you.
Yeah, it's a great question, Taryn, and hi to everyone who's listening to us. Thanks for joining. We weren't sure we'd have anyone, so this is a win. When you're growing up and you work through these processes, I think the benefit of the Team Alberta is exactly that. It's the right time in your stage that you're exposing yourself to the next level. So, when you think of what's involved in a camp, and I think for all the Team Alberta kids, like for Sarah and Danielle, and Boss probably the same with New Brunswick, like when you get to that first summer camp at U18 and you are going nonstop from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m, and there's a demand on you as an athlete to perform in every event. I think it's fatiguing, and we all come away from that camp exhausted, whether you're a player or a coach. When you get then to the national level, it's the exact same experience. So you're less vulnerable then, and you understand the demand of being an elite athlete in those moments. So, when you're cursing that hill, the next wave of kids won't have to worry about Camrose, but when you're cursing that hill in Camrose because you had to walk up it both ways, it builds you, it's character. And it prepares you for that national team experience, because every time you go up a step, it does feel like the pressure's a little bit more. So with that foundation from Team Alberta, you were at a better spot. We were all in a better spot.
Definitely. Thanks, Carla. It totally mimics, that national camps, and, Team Alberta really does prepare you for that. So thanks for sharing. I'll throw it to Kendall.
Awesome. Thanks, Taryn. Next question for you ladies. Have you experienced any setbacks in your career, and what did you do in order to readjust and overcome it to still accomplish your goals? And I'll start with Carla on this one.
Yeah, I didn't have any, Kendall. Just kidding, everyone. Yeah, setbacks are a big part of the journey. And it's funny, when I was 12 years old at my first Canada Games, that's sort of when my Olympic dream and national team goal began. And I came home and I had my Mr. Sketch markers and I was drawing the rings and practicing my autograph. I knew where I wanted to go. And when you're a kid and you set that dream, you think it's going to be pretty linear, meaning you're just going to accomplish it because that's the goal you have. But, you quickly realize, especially as an athlete in our world, that's not the case. So maybe if you don't mind, I'll just ask even just our panel here. Does anyone, when was the Olympics first? When was women's hockey first in the Olympics? Woz, Danny, Boss, do you guys know that answer? Okay, let's start. Let's just go back. We're going to have a 101 history lesson here. Sorry to derail. So the first ever Women's World Hockey Championship was in 1990. And the first time women's hockey was involved in the Olympics was 1998 in Nagano, Japan. So for me, when I was in 95, it was a huge moment, because for you guys, you're very fortunate. Women's hockey has always been in the Olympics, but for a lot of us, that wasn't the case. And there's a generation before me. So while we're on the 101, does anyone know how many Albertans have been represented on the women's hockey team at the Olympics? Does anyone know how many? Boss, what would be your guess? You're not from Alberta. How many women hockey players from Alberta have played at the Olympics?
22.
22. Okay. Danny, you might know this answer.
I'm going to go with 18.
18 women from Alberta have played in the Olympics. That's what your answer? Okay, Wazzy, you should know this answer.
I have no idea. 21 probably.
4 women in Alberta, from Alberta, have played in the Olympics. So the first was Judy Diddick, then myself with Megan Mickelson and Shannon Zabados. So those are the 4. So not to completely derail this question by any means, but I just wanted to paint you the picture. Like there's a long history to kind of get to this point. So when you have this dream like I did and you do, you got to realize like it's hard work. So when you see the setbacks I think is where Alberta built shines. Because when you face a setback, for myself, I was cut. The first 2 times I tried out for the senior national team, I was cut. One, I had broken my ankle, and the other one, I was just outright cut. And you want to quit. I wanted to quit. And I wanted to blame everyone else for why I was cut. And where I think the Alberta Built model resonated with me and hopefully everyone else on this call is that's not who we are. So you have to turn the page the quickest. And I think that's what we can do in Alberta. We got to be workers in Alberta. We know it. But that's what we can take pride in. So when I was cut, I didn't quit. And I did blame a little bit, but I tried to turn that page as quick as I could. And I got to work. And then I was really, really fortunate. The 3rd year I tried out, I made it and was able to stay on the team for the 6 years. So there's lots you could talk about with setbacks, but I'm so grateful I had them because they made me better.
Awesome. Great answer. And thanks for the history lesson, Carla. You girls don't know this yet, but there is a trivia quiz at the end of the day, and that is actually one of the questions that might be there. So girls, take note if you're listening. I don't know how you're going to follow that up, Sarah, but Wazzy, I'll throw it to you.
I don't know. I don't think I've really had any like drastic setbacks or anything, but you always come across injury, and that always takes away time from training and where you just can't do anything. And that sucks because you just want to be on ice, but you just got to take the time to get better and do what your body wants and take the time off. But that's about it, I guess.
Sounds a little bit like trusting the process. Next up, Boss, I'll throw it to you.
So it sort of builds off of what Wazzy just said. So in college, junior year, I had hip surgery. I was finishing my junior year and I had nagging pain in the hip, and it was to a point where I wasn't able to perform like I wanted to. Being the starter at Cornell too, I was expected to be, at my best all the time. So it was a very frustrating time mentally to not be able to focus entirely on my performance and having to have those setbacks and having to spend extra time in the treatment room and whatnot. So in my junior year, I decided to have hip surgery, and little that I knew is it took a very long time to recover. Of course, hip is a major kind of joint in your body, but being a goalie, you need to be able to bring that hip to the maximum of its capacity. And for me, I had that surgery in April. I was only cleared to go on the ice all out mid-September, and the season started in October. So for me, it was a very quick turnaround. And during that summer, I wasn't allowed to do much of weight bearing on the hip, and a bunch of my training was severely affected by that. And throughout that year, it was kind of trying to get a head start on a running treadmill that was already, at level 10 or whatever. And it was at a point where it was kind of difficult to, stay focused and really finish my career at Cornell on a strong foot. But that setback only taught me so much, because at the end of the day, I had to keep a mindset that no matter what is in your path, you got to face it head on, and you got to stay focused no matter what. And for me, that hip surgery was a major setback where it brought me back in my, whether it be fitness, whether it be, mental confidence of what I was able to do on the ice and whatnot. But throughout that summer, I was able to focus so much more on the mental aspect of the game and really be able to be ready mentally no matter what when the season started. So having done all that mental work throughout the summer, whether it be visualizing or whatnot, I was able to kickstart the season as a starting goalie again. And that senior year, I actually head to the Frozen Four and do very, very well at the Frozen Four, which is not very common for Cornell. So that will be one of my bigger setbacks. And that setback also has had some impacts on whether it be national team or whatnot. So at the end of the day, it was something that I've learned a lot from and only made me a better goalie and a better person for that matter. But yeah, that's my setback story.
Thanks for sharing. One of our panels yesterday talked a lot about resiliency from learning from those moments and that type of stuff. So that's a great answer. Danielle, last but not least.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like being an athlete, you kind of face little setbacks every day and something you kind of adapt to and kind of just learn from. And when I was 15, I actually got cut from Team Alberta. And obviously, it was a devastating moment for me, I guess, in my career, but also a very pivotal one. It gave me a lot of time to really look at who I was as a person and look at who I wanted to become. So looking back at it, I'm also grateful for it because it was a huge learning curve for me, and I felt that I became a better person out of it, and it allowed me to have future success, which I'm really grateful for. Also, I was recently cut from the development team, also a huge learning curve for me. Oftentimes when you face setbacks, I feel like Carla said, you kind of look for people to blame, but I've faced a few, I feel. So I feel like I've really learned and grown from it, and I'm kind of grateful for that.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Danielle, and that gratefulness piece looking back. That's so important. Woz, next question I have for you. Making Team Alberta and the national team for the first time, both are long processes. How did you stay focused on your goal and not let outside distractions, become a factor?
I just think like ever since I was little, like that's been my priority to like make these teams. I've always wanted to. That's been my goals. Like, and I've just put that as my top priority, like hockey first, I guess, instead of like other things. So I don't think it's that hard to get distracted if that's what you really want, if that's your goal. So yeah.
Thanks, Sarah. Next question I've got for Danielle. So you've been a part of the national team program at different stages. Can you share a little bit about those journeys through the different stage and what you focus on in each step of the process?
Yeah, for sure. So my process started in Quebec City. Obviously, that's kind of like the first step towards making the Team Canada camp. And from there, I got invited to the camp in August, which was really cool. And obviously, when you get to the camp, you're full of nerves, you're full of uncertainty. But for me, a big thing I wanted to focus on was just staying present. Obviously, it's hard sometimes because you want to look so far ahead to see, obviously, you have a goal of making the team, but then you also have to stay present, not dwelling on the past if things weren't going well. So that was really good, just to stay present. And then obviously, I got selected to play in the 3-game series, which was a huge honor, as it was my first time representing my country, which was super cool. So we ended up winning that series, which was awesome. And then from there, I got selected to play in the Worlds team in Japan, which was really an unforgettable experience. Obviously, a lot of nerves comes with it and stuff like that. But honestly, such a cool experience, and winning gold was one of my greatest honors, I guess, that I've had in hockey, which has been awesome.
Thanks for sharing. Boss, I've got the same question for you.
For me, throughout my process on the national level, so my camera was grade 11 or grade 12, 2015, so that must have been grade 12. I went to the Canada Games. I had represented New Brunswick earlier that year with the Canada Games, or I had represented New Brunswick in a Challenge Cup early on in the year, and then the Canada Games came around that year. And then later on, I was with Team Canada. Can't remember if it was that year or the year after, where we played in Buffalo with the U18s. I think it was that year, but I remember the first year that I was invited with the Team Canada process, I got cut right off the bat. So for me, it was kind of a very high, thinking, wow, I'm part of the national program, thinking, not knowing much about it, just being really excited about the invite and whatnot. And then to getting cut, to moving on to the next year, where I realized, okay, there's a lot that goes into it. The bar is very high. You got to work hard to reach that bar. Anyway, so that year with Canada Games, I believe it was that year, we went to Buffalo. We won silver. So it was kind of a sour one to swallow that year, because you never want to go on the national stage and win silver. And then I remember that year after, I didn't get any invite for the U22s. I think I was 18 by that point, so I didn't get any invites for U22. So that was another kind of a sour one that year where you don't get an invite. But then the year after, I got a call back with the U22s, and I'm all messed in my time frame, but I believe that was the year where we went to Germany and played in Germany at Fusen, and we played is it Austria, I believe, as well. But anyways, we played in Europe, and that was a phenomenal experience where we got to play teams from abroad, where it really sets the stage for you, where you know, it only gets not harder and harder, but you play against more elite and elite players as you kind of go up the railings. And I remember playing against Ratu and thinking, holy crap, like she was so much older than I was. And I remember thinking, how amazing is it that I have the chance right now to prove that I'm able to do what she does, if not beyond. And I remember always looking forward to the next challenge, always looking forward to who can I beat out next, who can I, you know, surpass next. And fast forward to recently, I got invited to the senior camp. I think it was May. Can't remember if it was 2019. It was one of the May conditioning camp as a senior athlete. And for me, it was one of those challenges where I was really looking forward to being invited as a senior athlete, because, you know, you think, oh, senior teams, that's the Olympic team, you know, you're excited for it. And once again, I went through setbacks where you know, you get cut, you don't get called back or whatnot. Where fast forward to now, I'm still, you know, on that uphill, kind of climbing that hill and trying to, you know, really pierce my way through that roster and make presence for myself and really show who I'm made of, and that being a member who belongs on that team. So for me, it's been kind of a rocky road, but certainly something where I've learned so much, and I really look forward to keep learning as I keep making my way higher. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for highlighting that, boss. Next question I have is for Carla. You know, Carla, you've played in 2 Olympics. Can you share a bit about those experiences, how they were similar, how they were different, kind of whatever direction you want to go with that, and the journey that you took to get there?
Yeah, certainly. I was very fortunate. I played in the 2006 and 2010 games, as Kendall mentioned at the start. Interesting. Yeah, there's differences for sure. So I'll go with the 06 games to start, of course. And that was my first. So I just made the Worlds team for the 2005 Worlds. So that was my first time making the senior team. And I had watched Team Canada win gold medals every year from 1990 to 2000, after 2004. And then I made the team and we got silver. So I don't know if it was me. It might have been. It could be argued. But it was the first time at the senior level we had faced that disappointment. So it was interesting. Again, you talk about setbacks, and I won't call them failures because they're not. They're just opportunities to learn. But we took those silver medals. And as we prepared for the Olympics in 2006, you go through a boot camp, you go through a centralization year. All are really extensive sort of training periods. Our captain was Cassie Campbell-Pascal, and she said, you know, bring your medals with you. So when we went to boot camp that year, we had our silver medal. So it ended up being our motivation. And we ended up going through the grind of the Olympic year. I remember being named to the Olympic team. That's a pretty cool day. Again, there's a lot of nerves there. You know, it's a longer runway, so you have a better idea of where you fit, but you'll never believe you're on it until somebody tells you. So when Mel Davidson had sat me down in the coaching staff and said I was going to go officially, it was pretty darn cool. And then you get to those Olympics, and it's just like, to be honest, you guys, it's really, really neat. Like, here's some of the neat things. One, you get all this free swag. And I don't care who you are, free clothing is fun. And we got it in the village, and they, like, I'm short, so like they would hem my pants for me there. So like everything fit. Like, I know that's really not what the stories you want to hear, but I thought it was really cool. You can get, like, there's a hairdresser in the village. You can go get your hair cut in the village. There's free McDonald's. There's lots of celebrity. Like, as a fan of the Olympics, I was a fan. But then you hit the ice and the competition starts, and there's just nothing like being on that stage, knowing you had dreamt about being on that stage for so long. So, you know, in Torino, we were a really strong team. Again, a lot of people wouldn't actually probably know this or remember this, but we in the final game didn't play against the US, which everyone assumed would be the championship game. Sweden had upset the US in a shootout in their semifinal, and we played Sweden. And there were a lot of jitters still going into that gold medal game, even though we'd had tremendous success against Sweden all year. And it just takes time. It's hockey still. So you get a couple shifts in and you're feeling good. We ended up winning that gold medal and it was phenomenal. But I'll tell you one thing, as a Canadian athlete, there really weren't many of us at that games not thinking about Vancouver. So it was a quick switch of like, okay, it was great to be at Torino. It was an unbelievable experience, but I want to play at home. So the Vancouver Olympics is like none other. When you think of the crowd, like you walk out of that tunnel in the Vancouver Canucks arena and it opens up to 18,000 screaming fans, all wearing red and white. I don't know how this kid from Calgary got so lucky, but it was amazing to have your family and friends there. I laugh. I was watching the goal game actually not long ago because I've run out of things to do in quarantine. And there's a play where Shannon Zabados, our goalie, set the puck and she was going to set it one way and I was coming back and I kind of toe dragged it out of her crease. And honestly, you can hear the crowd just gasp. And it's like, I get it. I was toe dragging. It's probably not the best maneuver, but the energy. So to be in Canada, to then face the Americans in the final, it was unbelievable. And I was really lucky in both my Olympic games. I don't know why I got so lucky, but I was on the ice for the final buzzer. So to be on the ice and then to just be able to go back to your goalie, just like you feel like you jump 1,000 feet in the air. It turns out it's about 3 inches, but you gave a good effort. But just to be able to win it on home soil, to have your family and friends around. And then for me, knowing that it was probably going to be my last international event, I can't imagine what better way to go out for myself. So that's a very sort of top heavy, just broad look at it. But I'm very grateful for my experiences playing in the Olympics. And then to be honest though, to go back to Sochi with Team Japan, that's a whole other hour. So I won't go into that, but that's maybe the coolest thing I've been a part of. And I'll just tell you why, because it was a group of 21 women that didn't know they had the capacity to get there. And we got there together. And so for me to be at the back of the opening ceremonies, walking in behind them, knowing that those players were living their dream and I knew what it felt like, it was, I almost got misty-eyed, and that's not me.
No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Carla. And, I was actually fortunate to take in a game at the 2010 Olympics, and you're right, it was like so energetic. The building was crazy. So glad you touched on that. Maybe just to follow up with that question, you touched on it a little bit, the boot camp, the process, like to get to be named to that Olympic team. How did that prepare you for the actual event?
Well, for those who are not familiar with boot camp, what boot camp is for the national team, it's always the spring before the upcoming Olympics. And what they do is they take the whole group of about 28, whoever centralized that year, and they typically find a fairly remote location to take you. And then the reality is it becomes a very strenuous day times 30 days. So, you're going from morning to night, just like we mentioned with the Team Alberta camp, but it is amplified a little bit more. So there's a component there that's just to build fitness and make sure that we're physically going to be at the best spot we can be heading into centralized year and then the Olympics. But what I've learned sort of looking back, and now that I'm a coach, I think I better understand the real benefits of boot camp. What boot camp does is it breaks you down, and it breaks everyone down. So you hit a wall. And what I mean by that is within that 30-day cycle, there were probably 3 days where you just wanted to quit. And you were in tears and you didn't want to be there. And what I've learned, and what I learned through that, is everyone hits their wall at different times. But the great thing about being on a team is you have teammates who pick you up. So in those moments when I was having my day, my teammates picked me up. When others were having their bad days, we rallied around them. And what I didn't realize is the direct parallel that you would face at the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games, it's such a volatile tournament. It's up and down. It's like a mini hit every day. You have to be on. And you're not going to be on every day, but to have that foundation of team and have that understanding of different people's, like the different teammates' way of managing their stress, that I think helped us when you get to that pinnacle of stress and pressure, which is the gold medal game. We were quite relaxed. And I think it was because of that boot camp, because we'd been through it together, because we'd seen vulnerability from one another, we were really, really strong. We were really strong teams.
That's interesting just to hear you talk about now on the coaching side of it, Carla, just understanding potentially while you're a player and you don't understand what Mel might be putting you through at the time, but to hear that on the other side of it now as a coach, that it kind of makes a little sense as to there was a little bit of methodology to the madness. Next question I have is for Sarah. So you were named to the 2020 U18 World Championship team. Can you describe how you felt during your first Team Canada camp?
So going into tryouts for Team Canada, I was like so nervous because there's only 2 other Albertans there. So they're the only people I knew in the whole camp. And I was also one of the youngest people there. So I was very intimidated by the whole process and everyone else, because some people, this was their second tryout or they were on the team last year. But once I got on the ice, it felt more normal and got better. But in the end, it was all worth it. And yeah, that answer.
So what, do you have any sort of advice for anyone that might go through that?
I just think like throughout the whole camp, you're trying to be as perfect as you can because you want to make the team, but in reality, that's not it. You're not going to be perfect. You're on the ice like 2 times a day. You're tired. So just to know that you just got to work your hardest, but not be caught up in being your best. Because if you're just worrying about being perfect the whole time, you're just not going to be perfect. You're going to be dwelling on yourself the whole time and instead of looking at the positive side.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Woz. Danielle, for you, you're currently playing post-secondary. How do you think that's helping you push your play to the next level, and what do you focus on daily to achieve your goals?
Yeah, for sure. So a big thing for me is getting to compete against great people and players every day. So obviously my teammates, it's great that we're able to elevate each other on a daily basis, and like friendly competition, in my opinion, is good. So having obviously those great people and players to be surrounded with every day is definitely huge. And another piece for me is my coaches. Obviously, they've been great to me. They're always there if I need to do extra video, ice, anything, you name it. They're there for me and they're always supporting me, and that's been awesome.
Great. And I know, we've Carla's played post-secondary, so has Taryn and myself, and it's such a cool and unique time and experience in your life. So enjoy it, definitely, Danielle. Boss, the next one's for you. You're currently part of the PWPHA. So since everything is going on in the world, what has training been like for you since March?
It's been chaotic, to say the least, but for me, it's been about really kind of focusing on what I can do versus what I can't do. Of course, rinks are closing left and right, gyms are closing left and right. In Calgary, we're pretty fortunate to be able to train at CSI, at the Olympic Center, if you will, which makes it kind of a little bit easier to get into the gyms. But for that first big couple months of March when everything shut down, we didn't have access to anything. So I had 35-pound dumbbells and 15-pound dumbbells that I was able to put my hands on. We were able to apply to get a squat rack and a bench rack and a few items from CSI, but I live in this shoebox, so I didn't have any room to put anything unless I'd be benching while laying on my bed, or I don't know, I could have, gone crazy with it, but I didn't have much opportunity to really, have those heavy weights, if you will. So I remember going for about 3 months, not doing any weightlifting, not doing any chin-ups. And for me, chin-ups has always been a challenge. And I remember going into it and I was really happy. I had recently gone from 0 chin-ups to being able to do like 8 chin-ups. So for me, I was, kind of freaking out. Oh, I'm going to lose all my chin-ups. I want people to bench as much, do as much of, heavy weightlifting. And I didn't realize how, you got to do what you got to do with what you got. So for me, I turned into kind of a body weight circuit kind of training style. And I use the outdoors a lot. Sometimes we realize, or for me, I never really used the outdoors that much in terms of going for a run, doing movement sessions, doing agility sessions. So those first few months, it was really about adjusting, being very creative with what you wanted to do. I turned to a lot of mental training, a lot of eye vision training. I had never really done vision training before, but I had reached out to an optometrist that lives in Calgary, and he does a lot of vision training for athletes. So I've done a lot of that. I've done a lot of random trainings. I remember my mom did these online Tabata trainings with all of her friends back home, and it was, you know, it was a live thing. And I remember thinking, like, I want to do every single like training I can do, because you know, you're just sitting on your bum all day and you feel like you just want to move. So I would do these crazy workouts where, you know, it's like the 70s with dumbbells that go in places you shouldn't go, and, you know, just having fun. But at the end of the day, you know, you kept active, you were really creative with different things. And then fast forward to when rinks started to open, that's when you really wanted to hit the ground running. And I was really happy that I stayed fit and I was ready for it, ready to get ice. And then it was a up and down with things shutting down, only being able to do one-on-one sessions to only being able to do certain times a day and whatnot. But overall, during that time of training, it was all about finding ways to kind of keep going no matter what the restrictions were. I was fortunate enough to be able to work out at CSI for quite some time during that period, and also go on the ice with the Hockey Canada gals, and all of us, you know, being able to get kind of that fortunate, you know, allowance, I guess, to go on the ice and train off ice. And then fast forward to December, where everything shut down again, and I had to think quick on my feet, where I knew I was going home for the holidays, and New Brunswick is doing kind of better, I guess, if you will, than Alberta, or they were doing better than Alberta. And right now, so we didn't have anything shut down. All the rinks were open, all the gyms were open. So I've been here since I moved here in December, and right now it looks like Alberta's doing better. So I might move back in a couple of weeks. But you know, for me, it was all about, you know, thinking fast on your feet and doing with what you got. You know, you don't have squat racks. Well, do 30 reps with 25 dumbbells, and it's going to burn just as much. So, you know, it's all about being creative and reaching out to people and kind of, yeah, just being creative. That's my advice for that.
Oh, that's awesome, boss. And I, you know, appreciate that you also shared that you've, you know, spent a lot of time on the mental aspect as well, and during this time. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. You know, one more question for you. Like, if you could go back and share one thing with 16, 17-year-old boss, what is the biggest thing you've learned or piece of advice that you would give yourself about the national program?
So I've been asked that question a lot by different people from the area and different young girls that reach out. And I always seem to come back to the idea that, you know, you got to be, it's kind of finding a balance between being hard on yourself, but also allowing yourself to make mistakes. Because for me, you know, being cut right off the bat with Team Canada, my first year at the U18 level, was very hard to swallow. You realize, like, holy crap. Because for me, coming out of New Brunswick, you know, it's not to brag or anything, but I was able to make the New Brunswick team all the way through, from the first time I stepped on the ice with them to until I was too old to play with them. And then I went with Team Atlantic right off the bat. And then I got recruited to a handful of universities, and I got to choose a very high-class university. And for me, I had kind of a pathway that didn't have too many bumps. So when I faced that first step at the U18, it was kind of a tough one to swallow. So for my advice, it would be hard on yourself in a way where, you know, challenge yourself, you know, put that bar very high, and, you know, hold yourself at a high standard to be able to, you know, once you're on the ice with all those elite athletes, you're able to kind of distance yourself from them, or, you know, make yourself better than them. But at the same time, be nice to yourself, you know, mentally. Don't be too hard on yourself, because everybody's going to face failure at some point, whether you call it failure or opportunity to grow. You know, it's all about finding a balance. So when I give advice to young girls asking me that question, I say, find a balance, you know, be hard on yourself, but also be nice to yourself. It's not an easy balance to find. I still, you know, I'm challenged by it sometimes, but it's all about being nice to yourself at the end of the day, and that'd be my biggest advice. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it is a process, and we have heard about setbacks that you girls talked about early on here, right? And being able to be kind to yourself and understand that there's adversity coming and you've got to push through it is great advice for these girls. Next up, Sarah, I've got one for you. We got a lot of girls that are in still young in minor hockey here on the call. What advice would you give to girls that are currently in minor hockey who have dreams of pursuing making the U18 national team and eventually the Olympic team?
I would just say to have fun while we're playing hockey and also not take anything for granted, especially during these times, especially during these times of COVID. I'm looking back and I'm like, I wish I could just be playing hockey right now. So just not taking every practice for granted, because you never know when it's going to be taken away, and just have fun and work towards your goals.
Awesome. Thanks, Woz. That's great advice. Next question I have is for Danielle. Danielle, having experienced winning gold at the U18 World Championships, at the Canada Games, you've experienced playing at a high level in high pressure situations. How have you learned to navigate those high pressure games and situations and perform under pressure?
Yeah, obviously with games like that and just games in general, nerves are a normal thing. And I kind of used to struggle with them before, but I've kind of learned to be more comfortable with them, because obviously with hockey, you're rarely in your comfort zone. You're always being pushed outside of it. But definitely a big thing for me is just leaning on my teammates when I need it. When I'm feeling stressed or nervous, just talking with them, talking through things, because chances are they're probably feeling similar feelings. So just really leaning on them when I need it has been huge.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Danielle. We haven't heard from Carla in a while, so I'm going to go back to you. Sorry if you were falling asleep there. You've coached in the Canadian program. You've also coached in the Japanese program. What perspective and insight have you gained since becoming a coach for these national team level programs?
That's a good question. I really love coaching. I really love it. And I've been so fortunate to be able to work with so many different athletes and staffs and be, grow myself, which has been great. But, I think I'll talk about Japan for just half a second here. I coached in Japan for 2 years, and shocking, but I don't speak Japanese and they don't really speak English. So that's an interesting dynamic, and that's actually a thing you'll see on the national team, because you got French speaking, got English. So it's almost like it's a new dynamic. So I had to figure out with Japan, how do I coach? And I was still a pretty young coach at that point too. And what I learned through my time there is energy, connection. So I didn't have language the same. I don't know those athletes as well as I know the crew I've worked with in Canada, but I think I have as deep, if not deeper, connection. So the game is so special because you don't need to speak the same verbal language. The game speaks a language too. And that's what I learned with Japan. And I cannot express to you how grateful I am to have had that opportunity and that experience. So I think from that side, the game, like I said, the game is the game, but there's a language to it that really draws you in. So that was really neat to be able to work now within the Canadian organization at times and in different roles. Is just neat, because I feel like in some capacity, it's a chance to give back. I'm a big fan of the women on this panel. I'm really excited. I want Danny and Woz and Boss to make the national team, and anything I can help them with, I want to, and I hope they know that. I try to help all, especially in Alberta, because there's so few of us that have had that Olympic experience. If there's anything I can help with, I try, and I want to see them have success, because everything they're talking about, the pressures, of performance, I've lived it. So as a coach, I think I try to take the angle to try to diffuse that or normalize it. Maybe is even a better word. It's okay that you feel nervous before a hockey game. People ask that all the time. Are you nervous in Vancouver? Yeah, darn right, because you care. And I think what I've been able to do now as a coach is not forget what it felt like to be a player. So to be able to work with athletes now, such as those on this panel, and try to maybe mentor in some capacity, or just let them know they're doing great. And they're all doing great. And they all worry about different things. And it's good that you worry, because again, it's going to motivate you. But as you've all alluded to, being a fan of yourself is the hardest thing to do as an elite athlete. But it's really the moment and the variable that's going to help you have that success. So to be able to coach now and to see the next generation of players coming up and be a small part of their journey is what I take a lot of pride in, and I really love.
That's awesome. I love how you touched on normalizing those challenges for these athletes, and obviously you've been through them, and just letting them know that it's okay. Like, you're going to go through this and you're going to get through it. So that's awesome. One more question I have for you, Carla. What's the biggest piece of advice from playing or coaching you can give to girls chasing their dreams of playing on the national team?
Chase them. Go for it. Why not? You know, I'm no different. You know, I'm like this really, I just love the game. I'm kind of a nerd. I really like school, really like Reba McEntire. Like there's just a lot about me that's really not cool. But I had a dream, and I never knew anything other than just my passion for playing hockey. And that's, I think, the biggest thing is play because you enjoy it, play because it's fun, and the game will take you incredible places. You know, and of all my time and all my opportunities, like the Olympics are one story, but I could talk about 1,000 different stories, because what we're lucky to get out of the game of hockey is it's our teammates. It's the people we get to meet. And like, we all end up retired, and we quickly realize that, you know, the competition's a part that fuels us for sure, but it's the people that keep us going. So for all the kids on the call here today, chase that dream, practice your autograph, draw the Olympic rings, watch the game. I grew up idolizing Judy Diddick. She was my favorite defenseman on the national team, and I didn't have access to Judy Diddick like you guys would the current players on the national team. I had to I won't even explain how I had to watch her, but it was fuzzy and the TV wasn't great quality. But I knew who Judy Diddick was, and I knew I wanted to be like her, and I wanted to be that defenseman like her. And you know what? I got to play with her later on in my career. I was pretty lucky. So understand what the dream you're chasing, and by golly, have fun doing it. And embrace it all. It's all going to be a factor. It's all part of the story, the ups, the downs, everything in between. But I'll tell you what, if I could do it, you can do it.
Great answer, Carla. And I think it's so important to touch on just even that teammate piece of it. You know, you and I played together back in 2008, and here we are still chatting away on a panel today. So that is probably one of the most fun parts about playing hockey, is the people you meet and where it takes you. A little bit more of a fun question for everybody. So this can be national team or just in general. Favorite hockey memory that you have? And I will put you on the spot first, Woz.
I think my favorite hockey memory is probably winning gold at the Canada Winter Games. That was just such an amazing experience. Our team went through so much adversity, and then coming home with the gold, when we did it in Red Deer, where in our home province, and we had so many fans at the final game. It was probably my favorite hockey memory so far.
It was a pretty neat game and a pretty cool environment to be a part of. And I know there's a lot of staff in our office that couldn't even get into the game because the fire code was at capacity. So definitely special. Next one, Boss.
For me, there's so many, but one that pops to mind is being in Buffalo, winning our first game. It's kind of a two-parter. Winning our first game and sitting on the blue line and listening to our national anthem. Listening to, you know, the O Canada, and that to me gave me chills, and it still gives me chills to the moment. And you know, it's one of those things where you realize, like, wow, this is, you're representing your country. It's a kind of a feeling very hard to explain. It's kind of a, you know, it's hard to explain. But also in that game, I remember hearing the chant. We were in the States, obviously it was in Buffalo. I remember hearing the chant USA in the stands, and I remember somehow twisting that USA in my mind as if I was hearing Canada, Canada. I remember kind of twisting that in my head, and they chanted it so much to a point where I was hearing Canada so much during that game. So it turned into a kind of a happy memory. I guess I kind of made it up in my own head, but that game in particular, I remember being absolutely amazing. So that's definitely one of my best memories.
Thanks. Danielle.
Yeah, similar to Woz, winning Canada Winter Games was definitely a huge one. Like she mentioned, we faced a lot of adversity, which made it that much better, in my opinion, when we won. Obviously, playing in front of a sold-out crowd in our hometown was awesome. And another one for me would be winning gold in Japan with Team Canada. Obviously, cliche as it is, but it's indescribable, and I still get chills to this day thinking about it. And for both games, actually. I still get nervous rewatching them, even though I know exactly what happens. But yeah, definitely those two.
Yeah, you had a pretty special couple of months there in 2019 between that and the Canada Games. And I know I stumbled on our team celebration from when we won, and everyone jumped on Bella McKee. And I even got goosebumps just watching that quick 30-second clip. So Carla, we'll end with you.
I wouldn't mind just piggybacking on that for half a second too. Like, I think what I like to maybe clarify for people is that feeling that our group in Red Deer experienced is exactly the same feeling I experienced in Vancouver. There was no difference, because you were a group that had a common goal, that were on a journey together. And, you know, we were both fortunate that we had our hometown crowd, we had a big crowd. And when you accomplish that goal, there's no greater feeling. And the reason it's a great feeling is because you were a genuine team. And that's how I felt in Vancouver, and that's what I felt in Red Deer. So yes, the stage changes, right? And externally, a lot of people think, well, you know, winning an Olympic gold medal has to be different and feel different than winning a Canada Winter Games. For me, no way. Very exact same feeling. So I think, you know, when you talk about that younger experience, you win Alberta Winter Games, you win a Canada Winter Games, you are learning how to win, and you learn the ingredients it takes to win. Both girls mentioned adversity. Our team lost in Red Deer, was 6-1 the first game. People wouldn't even make eye contact with us in the cafeteria. They're like, oh man, they're terrible. And we weren't terrible. We just didn't win that hockey game. You know, and so you start to understand the ingredients, you know, and I think there were a lot of ingredients that went into that win and the Vancouver win that are very, very, very similar, if not identical. So I hope for you girls, you understand that that experience will always be a special one. And you might be able to add to it, certainly, but the feeling will always be the same. And I'm just, that's what makes it so cool for me, is that we've all had that experience. So it's really neat. For me, there's lots, because I'm 100 years old. One is Slovakia at the Vancouver Olympics. Now this is weird, because Slovakia was our first game and we beat them 18-0. That's where I got my points, but that's neither here nor there either. And you would think, like, after that game, like, you know, it's not good for the sport, all the same rhetoric that you're used to hearing. But here's why it stands out for me. So we shook hands after that game. They had played so hard. Their goalie had played so well. They were just outmatched. But you had 18,000 Canadian fans in that building. And after we shook hands, all of a sudden there's this roar, the standing ovation roar in the building. And all of us Canadian players are like, what? Who? The Canadian fans gave the Slovakian team a standing ovation for an extended length of time. I, to this day, get chills thinking about it. Made me proud to be Canadian, made me proud to be in that moment. And I was so grateful that, you know, we understood the impact of the game bigger than what the result was. So to me, that was one that I still, when I think back, I'm like, man, how cool is that? And I've got to think for those Slovakian players, that's a memory for them. My last one, again, I'll go back to Japan. We were trying to play in the Olympic qualifier. They hadn't qualified since 1998. And you talk about nerves, Danny, you should have seen this group. So again, I don't speak the language, but I can feel nerves. Before our first game, they're all in the hotel room, and we're in Slovakia, and we just had this massive dump of snow. And I'm like, oh man, we're nervous, and we're not playing till the nighttime. So this isn't good. So I told them through charades, get your snowsuit on. We're going outside. So they got their jackets and their mitts. And I could show you photos. We had the biggest snowball fight. It was them versus me. And we just became kids, to be honest. We just became kids again. And we talked about after through translation, how that was the energy we wanted to play. And ultimately that team went on and won that tournament. So it's funny when you ask for the favorite memories, it's actually not an on ice. It's not a breakout pass any of us made. It's not a goal any of us scored. It's not a save we made. It's an experience we had with others that stands out. So that's back to Wazzy's point. When you get the chance to go play hockey with your buddies, even if it's your worst day, you should probably exhale, put a smile on, and go into that rink and have fun. And when I talk to Danny from afar here, I try to tell her before games, hey, play with a smile. It's the best way to play. And I think for all of us, you know, if we can exhale and remember that, in my experiences, those are the moments that are best.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Carla. And I love what you shared about, the experiences and all the, new friends you get to make through hockey, and they're always going to be some of your best friends. And that was always some of my favorite memories too. And then also what you shared about, the Slovakia game and the standing ovation. I think I just got chills and I wasn't even there. So I appreciate that. I think that's all the time we have today. And so we're going to wrap up, but thank you so much, ladies, for taking the time to share with us today. So much valuable insight was shared, and we're so proud of you all. So thank you so much. And just to close out here, just like yesterday, we're going to take a 15-minute break and restart our session at 11:15. This time we're going to start right back up with our active session with Kaylee Doherty. She's the owner of the Banff Yoga Festival, and she'll be getting us out of our seats. And we're going to share the importance of flexibility and strength, as well as providing a good stretch after yesterday's workout. Mom and Dad, feel free to join in if you need a good stretch. And again, thank you so much. And we will see you all back at 11:15.